Fans, welcome to episode 226 of the Working Fans Podcast. This is our second episode in December, and today we are going to do a 5-3-1 on the best moments of 2023. Before we bring Dave in, AJ right now, he's chomping at the bit. He's going wild. AJ, why do you have so much energy right now?
So the reason why I've got so much energy, and you'll notice there's no jitters going on, is because I just got done taking my Dubby Calio Cream. If you go to dubby.gg, you plug in fans working as your code, you're going to save 10% off your total purchase. Now, don't just get your Calio Cream. You got to have a way to shake it. So make sure you get your shaker too. I've got the Panda Bear one. You can get your Dubby there. And remember, AJ and the boys from the Working Fans Podcast sent you. Woo!
Well, AJ is quite popped up, and I'm going to bring in Dave, but before we get into the body of today's episode, a lot of people watching aren't subscribed. So if you like what you see here today, feel free to hit like, hit share, subscribe, do all those. Get the word out. We're into December. There's been a lot of both good and bad wrestling this year. And let's jump into these lists. Who wants to go first?
I will. It is my time. 2023 was my year, and I'm ready to go. Joe O'Keefe is his year too, except for he might be a little confused. You'll see what I mean. CM Punk embarrassing Tony Khan. Impact Wrestling returning to UK. TNA is hard to kill. Mickie James being invited to the Royal Rumble under her terms with little BS from Vince McMahon. I believe that was 2022, though. That was not this year. AJ, you're muted, but that's okay.
You are correct.
Joe O'Keefe, we appreciate your list. And he did have Will Ospreay versus Mike Bailey, Eddie Edwards, and Josh Alexander. I am going to take it that Mr. Joe O'Keefe is a big Impact Wrestling fan by this list. I appreciate that. Just had to point out the Mickie James thing, in case anyone was wondering. I did pick up on it. That was the year before. But we appreciate you, Joe.
I love speedball because who doesn't enjoy a good Impact Wrestling speedball?
I thought Michael Hayes was here.
I've got Kevin Carter next. He's got Swerve versus Hangman Texas Death Match. A little more confusion on this one because he's got the death of Jay Briscoe. I'm hoping that he means the tributes. The whole CM Punk AEW debacle, poorly handled by all parties. Once again, that just seems chalked up to confusion. And then you've got the ascension of Gunther and AEW's success at Wembley.
I'm going to say this was most memorable moments for him, not necessarily best moments. And that's why maybe the death and maybe the stuff going on with CM Punk and Tony Khan made it on his list.
I think it's fucked up that you guys can't embrace the fact that the man hated Jay Briscoe, and that the greatest moment of the year for him is Jay Briscoe dying.
Apparently, he loved everything about Tony Khan and CM Punk crumbling.
And speaking of kayfabe, I've got her brother Dave Fabe. He's got Adam Copeland debuts at AEW. He's got AEW fires CM Punk, Gunther's dominance, evolution of Judgment Day, and Vince losing control of WWE. I gotta love the fact that Gunther's made multiple lists now. I don't know about you guys, but Gunther's one of my favorite wrestlers, so I love him being in there.
No doubt, Gunther is the man. And I got a list from Randy Oscar, who, guess what? He's got Gunther's IC title reign on there. AEW in England, all in England. So once again, that makes the list. The rise of Cody Rhodes, Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico, MJF and Adam Cole friendship. Not a bad list. I enjoyed all of that.
Yeah, very solid list. The next list I got for you is from Phil Allen, and he's got Jade Cargill getting out of the limo at Fastlane, women's four-way ladder match finish, WWE saying no to CM Punk, Ronda Rousey signing, and not re-signing Jade Cargill.
Can we just say, this is kind of funny because we're recording this right before Survivor Series, and I think it's okay to that because I want that to be remembered because on the off chance CM Punk does show up tonight, that's going to be a really funny list. Just want to point that out.
I have a list by Jake St. John, the Jay Briscoe tribute, Sonata, New Japan Pro Wrestling Championship, MJF, Adam Cole, Devil Story, Punk Saga, and Jake, you popped me on this one. Anna Jay, I got a fat ass and a bad attitude promo. Jake was there live, He still popped for it and still cracks up at that line. Who doesn't love a great fat ass?
That's right.
Yeah, little peek behind the curtain. We are doing our live watch along last night. So if you're watching this video live, you watched our live watch along 2-3 weeks ago at this point, and we're getting a little ahead because a lot of 2023 we've kind of struggled through the holidays, and now we're trying to find a way to record ahead and get ahead of the holidays a little bit. But the next list I have for you is from Daniel Backley, head of Cage My IQ. Facebook group's getting a little wild, bud. You might want to check community standards. But Sonata winning the IWGP Championship, Sammy and Owens reuniting before Mania, Edge versus Sheamus, Gargano saves Ciampa, and MJF face turn.
Gotta love all those. But hey, before I read you my list, I got Cranston. All right, my man Cranston showing up here. He's a big supporter of the Working Fans podcast. Some stuff we don't want to talk about. Cranston's got MJF title run, Sami Zayn versus Roman in Montreal, the rise of LA Knight, Christian heel turn, which has been excellent, and the return, I think AJ's going to appreciate this one, of Trish Stratus.
100%. I love me some Trish Stratus. She had a funny Instagram post the other day. It was her little sister, and she was holding a goat. And she said, "Look, there's a picture of my sister and me." I got Kenny Color from I have no idea where. He's got TK being in fear of his life. He got Punk's return after All Out situation. And Samoa Joe as the link of television.
King of television.
Hey.
I might have fucking
Samoa Joe is the king of television.
I like him as the link of television. He's that little dude from Zelda. What's up?
Correct. I got my list last. I've got All Out at Wembley, the Bloodline storyline, WWE being sold, essentially being out of Vince's control, AEW finally letting Punk go. I got the Griswold Great Get Together because it's the last time we all got together on a project. And it was fun just being able to be there live, be a part of the event, and then be able to produce a video out of all of it. And to celebrate the Jake rule, I've got Alec Price winning the IWTV Championship.
All right. Yeah, as usual, Princess. Producer Joe coming up was close to home. What's up, Princess?
All right. It's completely acceptable these days for him to be the princess. So
that's right. We work for a princess. Anyway, all right. We got AEW and Wembley. This is my list, by the way. AEW and Wembley. Edge's debut in AEW. Cody versus Roman feud. Because even though I did want Cody to win, I thought it was one of the few times this year, other than Sammy, which someone else had already put, that we felt like Roman's reign was actually in jeopardy. And so I think that's what made it compelling. So Cody and Roman up there. Somebody I put down, I think, was Randy Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico. I'm going to put WWE in Puerto Rico just in general. That Backlash was a great event. And also, I'll even go a little further. Just see WWE doing more of these international shows like Money in the Bank in the UK and everything like that. That's been a nice added bonus. It's made their pay-per-views felt a little different and fresh. The international ones seem to be a hotter ticket. Let's see. Oh, and then finally, Gunther's Intercontinental title reign. I got to agree with other people, too. This has been the most meaningful Intercontinental Championship reign, you can almost say ever, but since the 90s?
It's one of the best title reigns I've ever seen. The fact that he knocked off the Honky Tonk Man finally is feather in the cap to me. I was never a Honky Tonk fan, so to see Gunther do it, he's number one in my spot. Number two for me is actually the rise of women's wrestling in the WWE again. They have done a great job of actually getting back to a point where all of it's relevant. I love Zoe Stark. Love what they've done in developing her. Shayna Baszler's getting a nice push. Even Nia Jax. But what they've done with Damage Control, absolutely fantastic. The fact that they brought in Kairi Sane, teamed up Asuka with them. The fact that by the time this plays, they've kicked Bayley out of the group. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I love the developmental. Number three on mine, the tribute to Jay Briscoe. It was a class act. I love to see the way they paid that tribute forward to him. I also love the debut of Adam Copeland. Always been a fan of Edge. That was great. But to me, for once, he's being overshadowed by his partner, Christian. Christian's heel turn and what he's been able to do as the father of that group, it's about time Nick Cage, or now, what's his name? Nick Wayne, sorry. I saw Nick Gage last night, so I got Nick Gage in my head. What he's been able to do with Nick Wayne and help him develop and playing that father figure to him, it's absolutely awesome.
I'm just going to
say, I was waiting for him to become Nick Gage with that adopting the name.
Yeah, I watched GCW last night, and Nick Gage was a huge part of the show.
Oh, you watched the WrestleCade show?
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic, and Nick Gage was fantastic in it. And now I've got his head stuck in my head.
Dave, are you familiar with what happened at the WrestleCade show last night?
I believe it was the Insane. Well, AJ said the Insane Clown Posse. I don't know if it was all of them. I didn't ask,
Insane Clown Bussy, which is Effie, Violent J, and Allie Catch versus George South, Ricky Morton, and Kerry Morton.
Yeah, that sounds.
Kerry Morton was great on the mic. Kerry Morton is playing heel so well. And then you just had great matches throughout. Matt Cardona was fantastic on it. A lot of just great action throughout the card.
Well, this is a couple weeks back at this point, so let's get back to the 5-3-1. We're down to our top three. Gunther is hard to argue. I would say, AEW All Out at Wembley?
Yeah.
All In at Wembley?
And then we need a third one.
With that third.
What did we hear a lot of?
Adam Copeland debuting in AEW, because, I mean, it's going to be bumped out anyways.
It is.
I'm glad none of CM Punk's crap made this list, by the way. I know he made people's lists, but the fact that he's not in the final is actually a good thing, because all it did was put a black cloud on wrestling all year.
So this is very interesting, the final two. I actually really like these two because they're both very historic in their own right. AEW All In might very well go out in history as the biggest event of AEW of all time. It might be the most attended event of all time. It's going to be a long time before we see that defeated. Gunther is the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. And here's another fun fact. If he holds it to WrestleMania, he will be the longest, even overshadowing combined title reigns. Like if he beats Miz tonight, it's only a few days before he beats his combined reigns. It's only like Pedro Morales and maybe one other person. That's very historic. Like, you know, like that really puts a stamp on it to me. I hope this guy goes on to main event WrestleMania. So what do you pick, right? Do you pick the event where so many people got to be involved, or do you pick the man in Gunther?
We grew up in a time period where the Intercontinental title was a relevant title. We grew up on Tito Santana, Greg Valentine, the Macho Man, into Bret Hart, Mr. Perfect. It was a time period where the wrestler was your Intercontinental Champion, and your puffed up steroid freak allegedly was your World Heavyweight Champion. I love what Gunther's done. He's got my vote.
Joe, I'm having trouble making my mind. You either agree with AJ and take it away from me, or you give me something to think about.
Gunther is a good choice, but I'm going to tell you why AEW is a better choice. In an industry where you pick the best optics with which to hype your event, being able to do what Tony Khan did and sell the most tickets to an event outdoor like that is a huge deal. And even though the AEW detractors will pick on that number and debate what about that number is real, even what the lowest estimates on that number are the highest paid tickets out there. So for me, it's got to be the event, because what they're doing with Gunther is amazing, but what they're doing as a small company and the competition that they're putting up against Vince right now is noteworthy. So that's why I'd have to go with All Out or All In.
A little bit for Joe real quick. It is impressive what they did, because we didn't know the bulk of that card when they started selling out that stadium. So the fact that they sold what they did.
What's interesting too is the company as a whole, and this is not to take a shot at them. Actually, I think it's more impressive. They don't have the momentum that they did maybe a year or two ago, right? Like when Punk was here, you know, as we record this, I think they had their lowest Rampage and lowest Collision numbers of all time last week. Both were like around 200-something thousand. They were going against SmackDown, but you know the momentum isn't quite.
Last week you're talking about mid-November. You got to remember we're.
Right. I'm sorry. Yeah. As we record this, right. So keep that in mind. But That being said, I think it does make it even more impressive to pull that off this year. So it's a tough one. My heart wants to actually say Gunther just because I love Gunther, what that means. But, Joe, you made a compelling argument. I'm going to go with the event. I am going to go with all in this particular situation.
Yeah, and I can't argue that. Yeah, that's definitely a solid choice. I would like to point out that tonight as we're recording this, Collision and Rampage are both going up against SummerSlam, so good luck holding on to that lowest rating.
Or they're going up against
Survivor Series.
This motherfucker, he can't get the event right. It's all right.
This might be the last time we record in advance. We're not getting the event right. We're not getting timelines right. But before we get out of here, we picked AEW as the best event of 2023. I will say that Punk getting out of AEW did a lot of good for AEW because just the fact that they kept him on for so long and that whole thing had to go another year kept people wondering what was going to go on. And then when he came back, it was just as disastrous. We will probably bring that up next week because next week we are going to be doing the 531 worst of 2023. But before we get out of here, Dave, AJ, why don't you guys both drop another quick thing you liked about wrestling this year? Why you think it helped make 2023?
There was another international event that I thought was fantastic. WWE going to Puerto Rico. The fact that, and I know some people out there will go, oh, but they're not a different country. It doesn't matter. It was still an international event. It was not on the mainland. So to me, that was a huge event. It was such a well done event. And the way that they got behind the product, I haven't seen them behind anything like that in Puerto Rico since the murder of Bruiser Brody.
Jesus Christ. All right.
That pay-per-view definitely had its own flavor. It had its own character. It stood out.
Absolutely. And I'm going to throw one other one there. I think Cranston mentioned earlier, but Sami Zayn versus Roman in Montreal at that time, because I said that what was weird about Cody versus Roman, there was this hint of doubt that Roman might drop the title. There was a little bit of slight doubt for Sami, too. Sami got this really organic momentum, and it really felt like there was a possibility that he could pull this off.
It was the biggest screw job I've ever seen in Montreal.
Well, you know one thing. If you're talking momentum, you're talking WrestleVille.
Read about the Northern Wrestling Federation in the book presented by WrestleVille.com, The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 2. Hear the story of Roger Ruffin, the man who trained Carl Anderson, the Monster Abyss, Jordan Clearwater, Chris Harris, and Jillian Hall.
Plus 45 other short stories including Jazz, Bobby Eaton, Kamala, Thunder Rosa, Mario Mancini, Scott Casey, PJ Black, Kerry Morton, Sal Renaro, Jeremiah Plunkett, Colby Carino, Bam Bam Malone, and many others.
Get your book today at WrestleVille.com. WrestleVille. It's where wrestling lives.